Hi, hello everyone. I'm really happy that you're here and welcome to my course. So my name is Daniel Vexi, and before we jump into the course content and what the course is really about, I'd like to tell you a bit about myself so you get to know me. My digital marketing career goes back to as early as 2006 when I started working for a digital marketing agency back in London. I started in search engine optimization, then paid search, advertising, and then throughout my career I added other disciplines such as analytics and mobile advertising and programmatic advertising, also PR and content, consumer intelligence. So I really covered everything in the online marketing space. I've worked in different verticals as well, from e-commerce to banking to charities to fashion. You name it, I probably touched on the verticals. And I think it's really important to mention because I do understand now the huge differences between the different industries and the different approach you have to take when it comes to marketing. And this is one of the reasons I've created this course, because I understand the need for customization. And the NFT space is so new that it requires a completely different approach to marketing. What's important to mention as well that I worked across Europe, Middle East, Africa, and I marketed products and services globally. So I understand that cultural difference plays a big role when it comes to marketing. So as you can see, I spent better part of my life, my adult life, learning and applying marketing knowledge and skills. So what I've done, I put all these 15 years of experience and boiled it down into this course. I combined it with my crypto and NFT knowledge. I might have mentioned this to you earlier that I work as an NFT marketing consultant. I work with artists and I work on big projects as well, such as the first European generative NFT conference. You don't need great marketing skills or experience to be successful when it comes to selling your NFTs. I'll give you tools and I give you methods which you can follow, almost like a step-by-step guide. So I hope you find this course useful. And what's really important is that you enjoy this course, because I enjoyed this course when I created it. Now, without further ado, let's get started. So let's just go through what the course will cover in detail. I have already introduced myself, so you got to know me a little bit better. You learned about my background. Then I want to cover the disclaimer, which explains who I designed this course for, and also what I will be covering and what I won't be covering during the course. Then we'll jump into a section straight away which explains why traditional marketing strategy won't work for NFTs. This is important to explain because this is where most people fail. They apply traditional marketing strategies to NFTs, which requires actually quite a bit of adjustment because the NFT space has its own nuances. Then it's important to explain how traditional marketing planning and strategy works, because the NFT marketing planning section actually builds on this. Then I'll explain how social media channels work and what are the corresponding best practices. In this section, I also included best practices when it comes to your website. Then the online PR and influencer marketing section deals with how to invest your marketing budget effectively and the smartest way possible. Content marketing section is quite important for you, because if you don't have a cohesive, strong story around you, then people won't be engaging with your marketing activities. So I'm going to give you some tips and ideas how to create engaging content. Then we arrive to the section which actually all of the above actually builds upon this section. And here I'm going to use a system that you can follow, a step-by-step guide. Then in the other important aspects to consider section, I'll give you some additional ideas on how to make the most out of the NFT space. These are not marketing related, but will influence the outcome of your marketing. Templates section, which is going to give you the templates that I introduced here in the planning your NFT marketing section. And then at the end, I'm going to close the course with some encouraging words. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So who is this course for? This course is mainly designed for individuals and small groups who want to start promoting their NFT, or people who already started promoting their NFT but have not achieved sales yet. This course is not designed for large groups or large projects that require performance marketing or paid media spend. I might create a course around that topic as well if I see a demand. This course does not promote any specific third-party companies or services. The companies I mentioned here are due to their merits, due to their effectiveness and usefulness as well in regards to delivering your message effectively or automating some of the stuff that you do. The NFT art space is constantly evolving. I'll keep updating the course as I see appropriate. On a weekly basis, there are new platforms popping up, so please make sure you check back and check out the updates. This is a practical and informative course that will require you to apply what you learn. So we'll be looking at platforms, and I'm going to go quite deep into what you need to do to optimize, for example, your Twitter profile. Everyone is at a different level of understanding. For some people, it will be very new what I'm going to show you and tell you during the course. It does mean for some people that you have to do some additional reading to fully understand the concepts that I'm explaining here. But I did try to explain everything quite clearly and in an easy to consume way. I won't be explaining how to create NFTs. There are very good courses out there that can do the job better than I could. On Udemy as well, there are multiple courses, or you can go onto YouTube or other platforms that explain the process step by step from start to finish. But please make sure that you avoid fake advice. That's why it's probably best to go on Udemy or such curated website where fake advice is non-existent. And finally, beware of spam and spoof sites that try to trick you into giving away your NFTs or handing out your recovery seed or passwords. I won't be going into explaining security tips around the crypto space. There are, again, very good courses out there that can do this job better than I could. So please make sure before you jump into selling your NFTs and buying cryptocurrency that you understand the risk and just you take care of yourself and your NFTs, really. Okay, let's jump into the first section. So why is this question important to us? As I alluded to this earlier, in every industry, you have to adopt your strategies, and the NFT space is exactly that. But before we jump right into answering this question, you have to step back and answer two simple sounding questions. But I don't think many people know the answer to these. So the first question is, who buys NFTs? This is a very simple question, and I doubt many people know the answer. Who's your target audience? Who are you talking to when you're trying to sell your NFTs? Who are you addressing with your posts, your videos, your comments? And this is one of the most important questions you have to answer. And the other very simple sounding question is why people buy NFTs. Now, some of you might answer this straight away, well, because they like my art. And that is probably true for some people. But for the majority of NFT buyers, that is not the case. There are different triggers. There are different motivation behind their buying decision. And this is exactly what you have to, and what we have to discover. What is the motivation behind the purchase? What is the trigger behind the purchase? Once we answer these two questions, I think you will be able to answer the main question as well. Why traditional marketing won't work for NFTs. So, who buys NFTs? According to two credible studies done by edweek.com and Business Insider, there are two categories that we can put NFT buyers into. One is the crypto investors, and the other is the collectors. Crypto investors and collectors. I think it's really important to understand these two categories because they have different motivation. The purchase intention is slightly different in these two categories. Investors will mainly buy NFTs that will deliver value increase over time. So they want to see a good return on investment when it comes to their NFT purchase. On the other hand, there are collectors who may be buying the NFTs for their artistic value and pleasure. So why is this important? Because this will tell us a lot about the motivation behind the purchase. The other quite interesting fact, but perhaps for some people it is obvious, that NFT buyers are crypto educated. They are crypto educated because in order to buy NFTs, you have to invest in cryptocurrencies first. So it is a natural progression for people who already invested in crypto that they go and diversify their investment into NFTs. So we are going to be covering a little bit more on this topic, who buys crypto, because they are one of your core audiences that you have to know, you have to get to know. Now, what these studies tell us also that the average age of an NFT buyer is between 18 and 44 years old. And perhaps it's a given because NFT is such a young and new trendy industry that it attracts naturally the younger audience. And within this age range, what we see is millennials are most likely to invest NFTs. What this study also tells us that currently your buyers or people who invest in NFTs are mainly located in the UK and US. Although I must say this is rapidly changing, and other markets, of course the Asian market as well, are rapidly adopting NFTs. So I am expecting some radical changes of this over time. But for now, when you start marketing your NFTs, you need to understand that your buyers are located in the US and UK. Therefore, we'll be focusing on these two markets. And this is an interesting fact as well, that NFT buyers are not necessarily your friends. So they're not necessarily going to follow your Instagram or Twitter updates, but they will be looking out and they will want to see healthy, big base of followers, because it tells them that the investment that they're going to make in you
will have a market in the future. And that's why it's really important that you increase your follower base, that you increase the exposure on the social media platforms and show investors that there are many people who resonate with you and like what you're doing. And this is interesting as well. A lot of buyers are already investors in the crypto world. The crypto community creates and sells these artwork for each other. So they trade between themselves, these communities. So let's look at one of our key markets here, which is the United Kingdom. There are some interesting facts that I'd like to share with you. First of all, that overall 2 in 5 people only invest less than £1,000 in cryptocurrencies, and around 37% hold between £1,000 and £5,000. Now, why do I share these statistics with you in the first place? Essentially, you need to understand the buying power of your audience. This is very similar to other businesses as well. When they price up their product, they need to understand how much their audience, their customers, their future customers can afford. Now, it is safe to assume that people diversify their portfolio. It is a tried and tested method, diversification of your portfolio. We can assume that about 20% of their investment of their portfolio could be translated into buying NFTs. And you can straight away calculate that around here in this group, between 100 or 200 pounds up to about £1,000 what they can afford. And this is really the majority of here. This is 40%, this is almost 40%. So 80% of the market can afford between £200 and £1,000 investment into the NFT space. Now, there is another big market here, considerably big market for us. These consumers have more money. They invest over £10,000, but they only account for 22% of the overall cryptocurrency investor community. But it's still a significant chunk. What's also quite interesting here, according to Gemini State of UK report, is that in the UK, female investors make up 53.4% of the market. That's very, very interesting indeed. But also worth mentioning that men actually invest more. So 65% of the people who actually invest over £10,000 are male. Also, a big chunk of the small investors are male investors as well. Here on the side, what you see is just age breakdown. Again, this is the key audience that we are looking at. And what's not really surprising, perhaps, is that the people who are not interested in cryptocurrency, therefore they won't be interested in NFTs either, are people who are over 55 years of age. So this overall tells us who actually going to buy your art and for how much in the United Kingdom, one of your key markets. Now, the second market we want to focus on, and perhaps currently in the world is the biggest market, is the United States. If we look at the current investors, the age group or the average age is a little bit lower than in the United Kingdom. Perhaps the reason for this because cryptocurrency started gaining popularity sooner in the United States. Again, it's not really surprising that this is your age bracket. This is the age group that you want to target. Also, what this report tells us is who are the crypto curious in the United States. And what you see here immediately, that the age groups actually spread out more evenly, which means that actually it's widening up it's opening up, which is nice to see. Again, the average age of the people who are curious about crypto is also increasing, and the male and female split is also evenly split. And I forgot to mention this here, but it is very different, the current breakdown in the United States, because female investors are the minority here. Only 26% of the overall investors are actually female, and the majority are actually male. This also quite interesting fact here. Most of the people actually live in suburban or urban areas. So it's important because it will impact your targeting, especially if you do paid media targeting. You want to focus on cities and big suburban areas. The average household income is a little bit over $110,000 per annum. And if we look at the crypto curious, again, slightly lower, and this is more evenly spread, which means that people who are curious about crypto are actually opening up. It's getting, the space is getting bigger, which is a very, very good news. On the right hand side, you see just a summary of the split. So 74-26, what we mentioned, and here the age group, and you see the actual split. Now, what I wanted to mention here, which I found in this particular chart extremely interesting, is the majority of people who currently buy crypto and therefore NFTs are white Caucasians. Currently, it's 71%. Now, I do predict, and I am 100% sure that we'll see a shift in this. But currently, as it stands, your target audience is between 25 and 54 white male, live in cities, and earn around $110,000 per year. So this is how it looks like. I don't have actual investment statistics, just like I had in the UK, but nevertheless, this gives us plenty to go with. And now we understand really well how our target audience looks like, who we are talking to, who's going to buy our NFTs. Now, let's look at the next question, this next simple sounding question: why people buy NFTs? So this is these two quotes came from these two sources, the Business Insider and Bloomberg. So the top one is Business Insider, the bottom one is from Bloomberg. And here they interviewed Rodriguez Frail, who told the Business Insider that crypto extends easily into digital art, so NFTs. And this is just a more modern way of investing in art and using it like someone would use gold or Bitcoin. So it is, for majority of investors, it's a store of value. And when it comes to store of value, you want the value to go up over time. That's why you need to tell a progressive story about you. You need to show your audience that you are going upwards and you progressing ahead, and your work will be worth more in the future than it is currently now. And the second one is exactly how I explain it as well to people who ask me why people buy digital art or NFTs. It's because it's a natural evolution. People are used to own physical stuff, a car or a watch or a fancy mobile phone, which you didn't need in the past, way back in the past, right? So these are new inventions that now we think that we need. And it makes up your personality, it makes up who you are. From the present, going towards the future, owning digital stuff like NFTs will become part of a norm. People will own physical as well as digital assets. So I understand this is hard thing to understand, especially for older generation, because they like physical world. They don't understand why you need to own digitally. But as I said, and as this article states, it is a natural evolution, and this is why Facebook is being renamed as Meta, because they are moving into that space where they want to serve the digital world. So it's a natural evolution, and it's inevitable that NFTs will be a store of value. So question is then, why traditional marketing won't work for NFTs? Now look at your audience and you will see what type of audience it is. It's quite sophisticated, young audience. And the answer to that is advertising avoidance. Now, advertising avoidance is a terminology that you may not be familiar with. I have actually written my university dissertation on advertising avoidance. It simply means that people, even without thinking, subconsciously avoid ads. So if you display a paid ad, a banner online, that people won't look at it subconsciously. They don't even have to think about not looking at it. Their brain just skips over it and they just move on. And this is why traditional marketing does not work for the NFT space. So I'll give you a little bit more information on it. So according to the Advertising Research Foundation, younger consumers are growing up with a strikingly different relationship towards advertising than older ones, avoiding ads far more than older consumers. Also, higher income consumers who have the means to avoid ads are increasingly do so. Have the means to avoid ads simply means that they actually buy the premium version of Reddit, so they don't have to deal with the ads that is displayed on the platform. So if you think back who we said our target audience is, the young, the crypto educated people who have spare money, this is exactly who we are talking about here. So what is the implication? The implication is that as more consumers avoid ads, marketers need to change how they manage ad campaigns today and in the future. And if marketers want to overcome ad avoidance, traditional methods need to adopt as younger targets show a different relationship with advertising. And that is the exact reason why you should not go and just pay for advertising and pay for banners and pay for Twitter ads and Facebook ads. You need to adopt to a different type of strategy which resonates with this younger, more affluent audience. So let's look at the section summary. And so I just want to reinforce what we've learned here. So who buys NFTs? A younger, more affluent, crypto educated people. And it's really important here that they are crypto educated, which means that you have to go after people who are in the crypto space already. Why people buy NFTs? It is mainly for investment purposes. So they want to see value increase over time. And we answer this question, why traditional marketing won't work? It's simply because of advertising avoidance is extremely high for our target audience. So you need to change the way you target these people, and you need to change the way you talk to these people. So, and what you need to do, I just said it and I'll say it again. You have to move away from traditional methods because it just won't work. You would be wasting a lot of time and money if you invest in this space. And I'm going to show you later on what I mean by traditional marketing and how you change that so it works for the NFT space. Now let's look at them. In this section, we look at what a traditional marketing planning model looks like. These models, or the variations of these models, are used by marketing professionals and marketing agencies.
It's important to understand each step because they greatly influence the outcome of your marketing. Now, I want to show you this because we'll take elements out of it. We won't be using the full approach because it requires marketing specialists and specialists within their field, and they can be quite costly as well. But we can take elements out of it and use it for our own approach and strategy. The next one I want to look at is the marketing funnel, which is a quite simplified marketing model, but can be quite effective to understand what you need to do when it comes to your marketing planning. And it's important that you understand how this marketing funnel works because we'll be referring back to this throughout the course. Also, the templates that I'm going to give you at the end use the marketing funnel.
So the first step is to identify the source of growth. And source of growth really is what we've done in the previous section. We identified the target audience and how much revenue we could expect from those target audience. We looked at UK and we looked at the US, and we've identified how much our target audience earns and how much they can spend on our NFTs. And it's very similar in this case as well. Other businesses, we need to understand as well the buying power of their audience, of their customer base, and it can be quite complex to calculate this, and usually statisticians work on these models to identify the source of growth. For us, it was an easier exercise. We didn't go deep, but you can actually do a lot more sophisticated calculations. But then again, in the NFT space, you don't really have a lot to work with currently. So the next step is to identify the consumer persona. So what is a consumer persona? It's really a buyer's persona. So imagine an e-commerce store will sell perfumes and drones. And these have different types of audiences, right? So when you create a buyer's persona, a consumer persona, you need to understand who would buy the perfumes and who would buy the drones. So a consumer persona looks like this. Someone who buys drones would be typically a person who lives in London, works in IT, travels to and from work by public transportation, watches Netflix. So you build up all these different traits that this person would do. And these are common traits of your audience, of this persona. So this is a consolidated view of a person. And you build these different personas, these different consolidated, generalized view of your customer. And you create a few of these, and it allows you to visualize who you are talking to, because the person who buys tech will be different than the person who buys cosmetics, right? So you need to create these different personas so you talk to them in a different way in your communication. So perhaps when it comes to NFTs, if I can give you an example there, maybe the person who buys a GIF or animated NFT is different from a person who buys still or static images. So you create different personas, but I don't think for us, for now, we need to actually go down the route of identifying exact personas, since we already done that in a way. In the previous section, we identified that our personas, the age range and what they like, and they're into crypto. So sort of like we've done the source of growth and the consumer personas in the previous section. So once you understand the source of growth and the consumer persona, then you move on to the consumer journey assessment. And the consumer journey assessment means that you need to understand from start to finish what the user journey will be. So for example, I'm going to use drone as an example again. So if you're selling drones, what is the user journey? So obviously first you see the ad, then you click on the ad, and you go to the website, and then on the website you check out the different models and then go and pick one and then buy it. So this is a simplified journey. The more expensive a product is, the longer and more complex the journey is. For NFTs, there will be a user journey as well. And the user journey starts by actually understanding who you are as an artist, and also getting familiar with you and your background, and check out how many you've sold already and what's the buzz around you, and then move on to the purchase part. So you need to identify this, because if there are hurdles, if you see that there are issues in the user journey and people can't move on because they stuck somewhere, they can't get the right information, for example, or they're getting the wrong information about you, then you need to correct that so they can move down the journey towards the purchase. So that's the consumer journey assessment. Different companies have different journeys, and even industries have massive different journeys, of course. So that's what you do in the journey assessment. And then we get to the media mix modeling. Now, media mix modeling is a very complex topic, and it's quite hardcore. Actually, not all companies do that. You need to have a robust data, sales data, customer data, previous campaign data in order to do media mix modeling. Media mix modeling is the statistical method to calculate the relationship between different channels and different touch points. So what I mean by touch point is, a touch point is when you click on an ad, that's a touch point. When you see an ad, that is a touch point as well. So every time you interact with an ad or with the brand, that's a touch point. And the media mix modeling allows us to understand the relationship and say, okay, so if I use search together with TV advertising, they work extremely well because they complement each other. But I can actually remove YouTube from my media mix because it doesn't actually add too much value to the entire media mix. So it allows you to optimize different channels, and it allows you to be more efficient and save money, actually, marketing budget. So that's media mix modeling. The next step is to look at the client's digital maturity assessment. Now, to simplify this, I think Google made it quite popular, but it did exist before. So digital maturity assessment allows marketers to understand where the client is in terms of marketing technologies, consumer data, and other aspects of marketing. So are they equipped with all the tools and data that allow them to be successful and get ahead of their competitors, essentially? So it is an assessment. The Google's assessment is quite well simplified. You need to go through a step-by-step process, and it will give you a score, and it will highlight what you need to improve. Say you're not using your Google Analytics or analytics software right because you don't have certain things set up. So it can go quite deep, but essentially that's what maturity assessment is, digital maturity assessment. So the next step is the measurement framework creation. So what is measurement framework? Essentially a set of KPIs, key performance indicators, that allows marketers and clients to understand and assess whether they achieve their goals or not. And I'm going to show you some of these key performance indicators on the next slide. But essentially, they allow you to track the success of your campaigns per channel and per marketing activity. Now, the next step in the whole process, once you understand the entire environment where you operate and what's driving your business and where you are in your maturity assessment, you move on to create the strategy. So once you collect all the information, you go on and create the strategy. Now there are strategists that actually do that. So all these different teams, as you're seeing here, these are actually different teams putting their heads together, and they create this massive data set that then they give it to the media strategist, and the media strategist then create the media strategy or marketing strategy, which then get translated to media plans. So media plans are specialist plans. There will be a media plan, for example, for social media team. There will be a media plan for the paid search team, and so on. And when these media plans are done, they can be executed. So the specialist teams, the display team can go ahead and start setting up the campaigns and start running it. So as you can see, the entire process starts from identifying where my money, where the revenue will come from, who am I actually talking to, what's the journey that this guy is going to take in order to buy my product, understand the relationship between different channels, understand the client's digital maturity, whether the client environment is set up properly, create a measurement framework that measures the KPIs correctly, and then after all this you create a media strategy, media plans, and then the specialist teams then can go and execute the strategy. And this is a full circle. And then when you're done, then sometimes you start the whole thing over again, because you move on to a different market, or you move on to a different vertical with your products. So anyway, so this is the full marketing model, which we can take elements out of it. We've already done that on the previous slide, or the previous section. Now let's look at the traditional online marketing funnel. This is a very useful funnel. It's quite simple to understand. So essentially, what it allows us, so we've seen how the whole planning looks like. This will allow us to see the different phases, marketing phases that we have to do. Okay, so this would sit inside the media strategy here. So we're going to be looking at this part, and we're going to be creating almost mini media plans, right? Okay, so marketing funnel, if you're not familiar with the marketing funnel, there are three main phases. One is the awareness, consideration, action, and loyalty. So I'll explain why it's in the inverted triangle or upside down triangle shape. But let me just explain the concept here. So let me explain this by using consumer behavior examples. So let's state that your customer doesn't know you or your brand. So what do you have to do? You have to create an awareness campaign so they become aware of your product. And it's very similar what you will have to do as well. You have to run awareness campaigns so people are aware of you. You can create buzz around, you can tell your story. We'll go into that a little later. So you create an awareness campaign. Next step here really is to, once they understand who you are, they have seen you online, they're aware of you, then you have to introduce yourself. So they move into the next phase of considering your products. Once they know you, they need to move on to considering your product, right? So if you think about this, is exactly how you behave as well with the brand that you don't know. You want to learn about the brand before you go in and move on to the next phase, which is going to be obviously the purchase. So they are now considering your product. So where you are in the marketing funnel is the consideration. And then you going to buy the product after you considered and ticked all the boxes, and then you go and buy the product. And this is what we call action. Because the reason why we call it action, because it's not always purchase. I just use purchase as a consumer behavior, because sometimes it's a download, sometimes it's a view video, or things like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a purchase. So that's why we call it action, because you took action, whatever the action was, right? And then finally, you have the the person who purchased becomes a customer, right? And this is when you enter the customer phase or the loyalty phase. And if you're lucky and if you've done a good job at providing them good service or selling them good product, they are going to become loyal and they'll come back. But you have to work for that too. So let me just explain why now we have this triangle or upside down triangle here. So imagine you reach 100 people. Of the 100 people, obviously, now that they are aware of your product, not all 100 people will actually go and consider your product, right? Because 90% will not be interested really what you need to say. So you say, okay, we have 10 people who come and considered our product, and then of those who considered, well, maybe the price is not right, maybe the color is not right, maybe the shape is not right, so only one is going to actually buy the product. So this is why it's an inverted or an upside down triangle, because it shows you the size of your audience and people who you're talking to. As you move down, you will have less and less and less. And here, this is the collection point. So the more you run, the more you will have here, the more campaigns. So that's why it is a upside down funnel. Okay, so the next step is to show you the marketing objectives. So what are the marketing objectives when it comes to awareness campaign, when I want people to know my brand and know me? So you need to reach them. Essentially, you need to create reach campaigns. Reach campaigns are campaigns that go out and they spread the word, right? Display campaigns, for example, are really good at and reaching quite a huge amount of people. They hundreds of millions of people can be reached through some display banner campaigns. But then what you want to do next is you want to, these 10 people who clicked on your ad and they actually considered your product, they looked at your website, then you want to go and educate them about, okay, well, actually, I have a product which is sourced from sustainable farms, etc. So you go and educate your customers. And then when they are satisfied, they go and convert. So that's what we call conversion. So there are different campaign objectives. And of course, once they converted, they go into a database, which we call a CRM. So essentially a customer database where all your emails and all your details get stored. And this can be used to actually send loyalty points to you or special offers. So these are the different stages and campaign objectives. Next is the approach. The communication approach here is proactive awareness. The reason why I call it proactive, because you don't wait for people to come to you because they don't know you. You have to go out proactively and make yourself aware. Then the second one is information. You have to provide information. So the objective is to educate people and the approach is to provide information. And then here for conversions, the approach is direct response. You might going to hear this later on. So direct response is a marketing terminology that you want to get familiar with. When we say a direct response campaign, what we mean by that is a campaign that pure focus is to drive conversion, drive action. Okay, so let me give you a typical marketing channel mix. Now, I said it typical because I would not be able to list all the different possibilities that could work under awareness. So this is just a typical mix of channels that a marketer would use. So for example, as I said earlier, they would use display advertising on different websites, or they would use YouTube ads or Spotify audio ads. And PR and influencers are also really good at actually going out and creating buzz and creating awareness around your product. The next is these platforms are pretty good at actually educating people. So social advertising, paid social, Facebook and Twitter, because you can create platforms on Facebook, or you can drive people onto your website so they can read about you, and they can get educated around your product. The next step is the direct response. Paid search is one of the best known direct response. They work extremely well, and this is how Google became a $1 trillion business almost. So imagine when someone searches for a TV, they want to buy a Samsung 50-inch TV, then Google is the best place to advertise your product or your services if you run an e-commerce website, because you know that people want to buy that. Now the ad conversion phase. Philips perhaps done the awareness phase on TV and other places. They also educated the customers. Now the customer wants to buy it. So here is your place. If you're an e-commerce company, probably this is where you spend most of your budget. If you are Philips, you're a brand, this is where you spend most of your budget. Okay, and this is where retargeting comes in as well. So when you go onto your website and you put something in your basket and you go away and the website keeps following you, hey, don't forget to buy my product that you put in the basket. So that is part of a retargeting campaign. I know it can be annoying, but that's not the point. And that's just how it is. And then you actually become a customer, you're in a database, and then you deploy a loyalty program. Now let's quickly look at the different KPIs, because we need different KPIs for different phases, right? So this would be here, the KPI for an awareness campaign would be unique reach. So unique reach, what we mean by that is how many unique people I reached with my channels. Okay, and we can measure that really well. Also, since it's a brand campaign, right? So they don't know your brand. What we want to understand is brand awareness uplift. So YouTube offers brand awareness uplift studies. So if you run a campaign on YouTube, you can run a brand awareness uplift. What it really does, or what YouTube offers in this case, few days or weeks later, they go and display a few questions to someone on YouTube who has probably seen the ad. So they ask you, okay, have you come across any of these brands before? And they offer you 3, 4, 5 brands. And if you click on, yeah, I have seen this and this and that, and if your brand is amongst them that this guy picked, that means that now the person is aware of the brand, so the brand uplift happened. Viewability simply means that a person have seen the ad, because sometimes the ad is below the viewable space on the web page. So it's important for marketers that it was at the eye level and people actually looked at it. Okay, we have other key performance indicators here. So when it comes to education, what we want is you want people to engage with it, right? So you want to educate them. You provide more information to them. So you want them to click on your link, to click on your banner, and learn more about your product. And there are other uplift as well. And also here you can introduce the purchase intent or uplift recall, etc. So there are multiple KPIs that you can use to measure different parts of your channel mix. And then finally, we arrive to the direct response KPIs. Typical KPIs here are conversion, so how many customers are converted into loyal customers. Essentially, CPA stands for cost per acquisition. So it's not always a purchase, as I said. Sometimes it's a different action behind it. So it's cost per action or acquisition. ROI, ROMI, so return on investment or return on marketing investment. These actually, the CPA, ROI, and I think it cost per install as well, right? It doesn't always have to be a purchase. But anyway, so CPA and ROI actually reflect on the entire marketing activity. So the calculation here takes into account everything that you spent and the entire during the entire marketing activity. That's it for the KPIs. We could go on because there are so many other KPIs, but these are the main ones that you want to be familiar with. And perhaps what you want to use as well is ROI or the ROMI. So how much money you spend to sell an NFT, essentially. So it's fairly easy to calculate, and I'm going to give you a template later on that will have the calculation here. You have then the I'll move out a little bit. So you see, so re-engagement and lifetime value. So we want people to come back and re-engage with our brand and purchase again. So lifetime value really means that while you were my customer, how many times you bought from me. So that's what we call lifetime value. How many times and what value, how much you spend with me. And this could be quite interesting. It's hard to measure for some company, but this is a very, very interesting thing to look at because it looks at over a longer period of time, not just one purchase. Okay, so here is the section summary. I want to summarize and cement a little bit what we've learned. So the first is we can take elements out from the traditional marketing planning model, and we looked already certain elements that we can take out and use it for our own purposes. And in the next section, I will show you how you do that actually. So the marketing funnel is a good way to visualize consumer journey. So now you understand the different phases that the consumers go through before they buy your product. And it is going to be very similar to your NFT buyers. They go through the exact same phases. And then finally, number 3 here is there are different marketing channels for each stage of the consumer journey. So you need to use different channels per phase, per marketing stage, per user journey. And I will show you in the next section what the ideal marketing mix should look like for an NFT artist. So let's see.
Now let's look at how an NFT artist or a marketing specialist should look at this tried and tested method or planning model that we looked at. There are nuances of the NFT space which we have to consider. So I updated the planning model based on our experience working with NFT artists, working on big projects such as organizing NFT conferences. And I also put some research behind it. And this new model is quite easy to apply, quite easy to use. I also kept in mind that most people won't have huge amount of budget. In fact, you can actually do this for free. But I must say that free always comes at a price. In this case, free requires more time and more effort. So if you have a little budget, I will show you later on in the course how to use that little budget to push your efforts even further.
Okay, so let's look at what an NFT marketing strategy looks like. So let's customize the marketing funnel that we just looked at, and see how it fits the NFT space. So let's start again with the consumer behavior. So the first step here is, doesn't know you and your NFT art, considering your NFT, considering buying